business, I believe.
Yeah, we're good.
Awesome. So glad we fixed that. All right, now we can actually start. So,
Sweet.
welcome. I was hoping maybe you can introduce yourself, tell me where you're from, some different things you do, and yeah.
Yeah, well, my name's Navy Mckee. I grew up on the Big Island of Hawaii, and I just graduated from San Diego State University with my major in business management. And now I'm currently working for a surf company and then also starting my own company as well as doing some creative stuff on the side.
Awesome. Yeah, that's one thing that I was going to ask about you first was that little side business. Like it looks like sustainability, some different things going on. Tell me how you got into that and what that's about.
Yeah, so well, going into college, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And so I kind of looked around at a bunch of different clubs on campus and stuff. And there was an entrepreneurship club. And so I joined it. And I had a couple of like failed businesses that were just not really in what I wanted to do. I wasn't really passionate about them. But this last year during COVID, I actually was working with my dad a lot. And he's been in the construction industry for over 30 years. So he had this design that has been sitting in a closet that's basically a storm drain filter. And so that's something that resonates with me a lot just because I'm in the ocean all the time at home. And there's a 72-hour rule where you can't swim or do anything like that 72 hours post rainfall. I'm sure you know that, like coming from Florida as well.
Never heard of that,
Storm
not
drains.
going to lie.
But it's basically like the water becomes super polluted just from all the rain
Runoff.
water, anything, yeah, any runoff. And so basically there's not much being done right now to actually solve the problem. And so my dad has had this design forever. It's never been implemented. And so we kind of took it, I took my business skills and then his industry like knowledge. And we combined and we're working on Kai Pono Solutions right now. And so we're about 2 weeks out from a patent and things are going well. So we're gonna do some more
Awesome.
experiments and stuff soon. So yeah.
In terms of the business plan, is the main goal to sell directly to like users, or trying to get more like sell to government, or what are you guys thinking is your goal?
Yeah, we'd be selling direct to government and then just being implemented in urban areas, cities, suburbs, communities, anywhere. And then eventually we can start to like tap into different customer segments like land developers and then more so like agriculture sites and things like that.
So how does it work?
So I can't tell you everything
Okay.
about it because our patent is still going through. But basically we're filtering water at the street level, which has not been able to be, it hasn't been done yet. And so that's kind of like what our secret sauce is, or our secret sauce is within our filtration system. But our main selling point is like we're at the street level and we're super low impact, where a lot of other devices are really ginormous and expensive and things like that. So
Maybe what you can tell me about is maybe more a little bit about the problem, like maybe how the system of how the water gets drained into the ocean, because I absolutely had no idea about that. So maybe can
yeah,
explain how the rainwater kind of gets to the ocean or that kind of process and where your
yeah.
solution is set.
Well, it actually kind of sounds unreal, that all this water and all this contaminated fluid would go down a storm drain and drain directly to a waterway. So whether it's a stream, lake, river, it happens all over the US and in other countries as well. So basically, like I said, anything that goes down a storm drain is unfiltered and untreated. So that's anything from dog droppings to nitrates to soils, things like that. It's all going directly to an ocean and isn't being filtered. Um, so that's kind of what the main problem is. And then like from the business side, the main problem is that there's not a lot of solutions to get the job done to actually do it. So all these communities have to meet regulations by the EPA and things like that. And they're not able to meet their regulations because the standards are just they're not up to par.
Yeah. How what are some challenges that you've been having? Because it's a startup business and just kind of getting, you talked a little bit about the bureaucracy and all the rules. What are some other challenges because starting up brand new and a new project?
I think the biggest challenge for me is being like a fresh 22-year-old and I'm going into this huge government space. So I'm dealing with a lot of like regulations, just politics, policies. Just going into government is something that I don't have a lot of experience in. But we're actually recruiting for our team right now. So if anyone is involved in the government space, we'd love to have you on our team. But other than that, we've got like the engineering and all of that down, and then all the business side is taken care of. It's more just so like that customer interaction with the government and like permits and things like that that are difficult.
In terms of your tasks and like you're a part of the job, what is your normal day to day working with that business or week tasks that like this is what you do for the company?
So basically, I deal with pretty much everything. Right now, I'm kind of wearing all the hats since I'm the only person really on the business side. I just hired a girl on for marketing, which is amazing. So shout out to Lainey. She's running our social media and doing things like that. Trying to get what we want to do with the company is we want to approach the space. It's a really unsexy space. There's not a lot of, like I said, that not a lot of people know about what's going on with stormwater, and it's been the same players for years and years. So we basically want to come in really fresh as like a young team and kind of like bring some like modernization to the stormwater world. So that's why we have Lainey on the team. She's dealing with marketing and she's handling all of the, you know, making stormwater cool kind of deal, merch, things like that. And then I basically handle anything from like legal to working with the engineers. Anything like that has kind of been my wheelhouse, funding, things like that.
Cool. No, yeah, I think a big piece for your success would just be not giving knowledge to people. Once they're aware of the problem, then they can fix it. If they don't know about the problem, then it's hard for them
Yeah,
to fix something they don't know about. So I think definitely like
100%.
informing people, especially since there's so many like waterways in the United States. Like both sides have oceans. There's the Gulf. You know what I mean? We're surrounded by oceans, so that's
Right,
definitely a big way to big opportunity.
right.
Cool. I think that's pretty awesome. That's great to be starting off a
Yeah,
business
thank you.
right away. And some of those things you don't get taught in school. You know what I mean? Like how to hire someone, how to interview someone, how to fire someone.
100%. Yeah. And that's something that I'm like learning right now is just kind of how to, I have an amazing team, so it's easy, but it's hard to, you know, kind of take like more of a role where you have to assign people things or make sure things are getting done. I have a really big issue with wanting to have my hands in everything. So I need to learn how to kind of like let
Me
things
too.
go and let other people take over duties. Yeah. But that's something that I'm learning as we go is like just how to hand off work and not, you know, have to do everything all the time. But my team is great, so it's easy to, you know,
Nice.
work with them.
Yeah, I've been doing that as well. My team, I have like two or three other photographers. I have some other people on my team still doing big projects. You have to do that. So you kind of
Mhm.
have to like, what I have to do is like look at my priorities, like, you know what I mean? What needs to get done?
Right,
And then maybe these lower tasks, like I can do these, but maybe my time is more worth in the higher levels. And there's people that specialize in
right,
marketing. That's what you have to kind of figure out what they're good at. You know what I mean?
right.
Find out what everyone's good at.
Yeah, and it can be hard too when you have a big list of things you need to do. You kind of like forget to assign things. So I have a bunch of stuff that I need my engineers to do, but I'm so caught up in my work that it's hard for me to, you know, disperse the work
Yeah.
amongst them. So I'm learning every day as we go. But
How do you schedule and plan and like do you use a planner? Like what do you use when because you have so much stuff, how do you plan your week?
I'm like, yeah, I'm very, very, very organized. I think if I wasn't, my life would be in shambles. So I do a lot of like planners, everything's color coordinated. And then I use Google Calendars a lot, honestly, to kind of like block out my day. But I kind of just, and I have like 6,000 like post-it notes you can see here.
Wow.
Like I just have 1,000 on my desk of like things I need to do. So I usually go through them and then kind of schedule everything out.
Nice. All right, I think that's awesome. I think we can kind of shift more to the creative side now to kind of see what
Yeah.
your other part of your life is like. So maybe just tell us how you got into modeling and what you do now with that and how that takes part of your life.
Yeah, so I actually started back in like 2015, I believe. I was paddling outrigger canoes for my high school, and Instagram modeling or like influencers, things like that, they weren't really, it wasn't cool yet, you know, it wasn't really a thing. And so I was paddling and I always needed like supportive swimwear for when I was active and things like that. So I actually reached out to Midori Bikinis and at the time, they were more so of like a sponsor for athletes. And so I asked them about like, you know, different tops, things that would be good for paddling. And we kind of just hit it off instantly. The founder, Rachel, is like incredible. But she kind of took me under her wing and was like, hey, paddling is like a really different sport. Like, we'd love to have you on our team. So I kind of just started off racing in their suits or just wearing them to the beach. And then eventually like, social media, like things, influencers started to become more of a thing. And my contracts changed over time because it was more so like I graduated and I wasn't really like paddling anymore. And I was more so doing like modeling. And then from that, I was really lucky to get with them from the beginning because they were already a big company. So it opened a lot of doors for me going through like with what I'm doing now.
Awesome. And so how long has that been since you started to now with them?
Well, 2015, it's like 6 years I've been with
Oh,
them. I'm
nice.
still with them.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're my lifers. But I feel like it's more so like a family dynamic now rather than, influencer and company kind of deal.
absolutely.
They've become like a super, yeah, special part of my life.
And what about just like strict modeling? Do you other things rather than work on the brands? Do you have other passions or do you work with other companies or do you just do it for fun kind of agencies? How does that work for you?
Yeah, so I've tried since I was like way younger, like in middle school and stuff. I've tried to get with agencies, and I guess I've just never fit the look. So I've actually never had an agent. So everything I've done has been freelance, and then gigs here and there. And at the beginning of like the whole influencer thing, I tried to do like to expand out into like different things. But I think my niche is definitely like bikinis and beach and lifestyle like that. I've tried one too many times to try and branch out and do like high fashion or things like that, but it doesn't really match like, what my style is. Um, and I think what I've learned over time is just like sticking with companies that I truly like. It doesn't make the process hard. Um, in the past, I was doing like teas and things like that, but I've gotten to this point where I'm like, it does not serve me to, do promotions for things that I don't really like. And I know it can be easy to get caught up within like the payments and things like that, but I've truly learned that like I want people to view me as like an authentic person and I'm sharing stuff that I truly like versus like I'm just another ad on social media
Yeah.
for some tea or powder or something like that. So I've learned to just like stick to what I'm good at and things that I like, and it makes the process a whole lot easier.
And what are some different ways? I know you listed a couple to make money using Instagram. Or modeling? What are some different ways that you have found to make money and maybe taken advantage of or have not taken advantage of?
Yeah. Well, if it's a company that I genuinely, truly like, am super excited to do like a lot of promotions for and things like that, then I won't charge. I'll just do it for, a product exchange. I have a job on the side, so it isn't like my main like money hustle through Instagram. But if it's a company that I guess that's bad to say. If it's a company that I'm more so like like I said, I don't share things that I don't love, but if it's something that it's going to be a lot harder to shoot for
Or it's more
because as
work
you know,
or
like
yeah.
as yeah, or if I'm going to need to hire a photographer or things like that, then that's when I usually. But if it's things where I can like take my iPhone and shoot it, in my backyard or like at the beach, then it's a lot easier that way. But if I need to hire on photographers or a team or things like that, that's when I start to charge, as for different posts and stuff. But I'm actually like these days, I'm not doing a lot of paid work or just a lot of work in general. It's just like a few brands here and there.
So is the most of the work you have now with modeling like some stuff that you set up and kind of you're managing, or have you been involved in like bigger projects where you're just a model and then maybe they're shooting like an actual like production shoot?
Yeah, I've had a few of those, and I also have like a lot of photographer friends who it's kind of an exchange of like, hey, like, can you come down and shoot this for me? I have some bikinis I need to get shot or things like that. Um, but for the most part, it's mostly just promos, mail things like that. But not anything recent that I've thought of.
And how did you go about reaching out to these brands and getting connected with these brands? Was it mostly you reaching out or at a certain point where they contacting you?
Yeah. When I was a lot more like active, I was more so getting a lot of brands through DM or email or things like that. But I feel like the market has really become very oversaturated. I'm sure you can see this as a photographer too. Everyone is doing it. So it's very strategic. Um, so I usually just reach out through email if I think it's a company that I can work for and that I think that I would like. Then I usually just reach out through email, or if somebody pops up in my email, then I'm all for it too. Um, but I haven't had really any like strategic planning on whether like or not I should go after a brand.
Yeah, it's been pretty casual for you, kind of. They're just like as it comes, you know what I
Very
mean? It comes as it does, and you kind of do the projects that you like. It's not been like a main focus,
yeah,
I
and
think.
that's the thing, is I never want it to be like forced for me. Like I always want it to be enjoyable, like, planning shoots and things like that. Like I never want it to become hard for me, just because it's something I've been so passionate about and something that has been always fun for me. So I've never really wanted to stress myself out out about it or
Yeah.
things like that. So
And what was that shift like when you're mostly doing modeling and now you're shifting to like running a business and doing other things? How has that been for you, shifting, almost like changing your life a little bit? How has that been for you, that adjustment?
yeah. Well, I think it's super important that I've started my business just because it kind of gives me something to keep my hands in all the time, just since modeling has been so casual. Um, but I still, like I said, I still do it here and there, whenever I get, brands that I like. And, but I feel like having my business has really given me like a sole purpose and like a really lifelong purpose, of, saving, it sounds cheesy, but like saving the world, and it all ties back together, like me being young, paddling in the ocean every day, like it all ties together somehow. So I think it's super important to like keep my values aligned.
Absolutely, that's great. I think that it leads you, you know what I mean? Like you like very natural stuff. You appreciate the nature and the beach, and now that kind of led you to this where you have an opportunity to do something to help for it. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right. And that's kind of how like my Instagram started, like I gained a majority of my followers from me and my friends frolicking on the beach in Midori. It wasn't like I was planning these shoots out and this crazy production. Like it was always just me having fun and being in nature, that like that's what got my following, I believe. And so I do notice that when I don't post that as much, like my engagement isn't as high. But when I go home and I'm posting stuff at the beach or hiking or I'm active, like that's where my followers come in. So that's kind of how I've noticed like what my actual like following is, what my audience is. It's because they just enjoy like natural, true, honest work.
Yeah, I think that's your little niche, and that's the audience you found. And what would you have to
Yeah.
say for like advising other people that are kind of trying to do the same thing, like posting and trying to have a professional look, but also still trying to enjoy it? Like you said, you don't want it to be like a big hassle for you or something. You want to make sure it's enjoyable. What would you say to like kind of manage that, or tips to do that?
Yeah. I mean, just for me and like my perspective, it's just like always being authentic, whether it's professional or not. Like think that just always being authentic, people are always going to appreciate that. I kind of have this theory lately, and I've talked about it a lot with like marketing teams and stuff that I've been working for. And I feel like people are they're more willing to buy from somebody who's in their bedroom in a state 10 states away, who just shared a mascara, rather than some huge influencer on the internet who's been having all these paid ads and these huge tea companies and things like that. I feel like people like micro influencers are starting to become the new craze, just because I feel like the authenticity of it, um, because usually when people are micro influencers, they're usually sharing things from their heart. Not saying that not everybody does that, but I just feel like that's where like a lot of authenticity comes in.
Absolutely, and it's that little micro niche, like that for the
Hmm.
small specific audience. You know what I mean? Like New York in this neighborhood, and they do this, or something. You know what I mean? Like, and then the
Right.
brand can find that, like that. We want that as our audience. When it's a really big influencer, then it's a very broad, and maybe it's just like
Yeah.
Northeast United
Well, and I think
States. You know what I mean?
yeah, and I feel like we've seen it a lot with TikTok. Like I have bought so many things from TikTok, it's crazy. But a majority of the people on TikTok are just average people, every in their everyday lives, like, oh my God, I just got this mascara and it's great. And then I buy it and it is great. But I'm not looking for my products on Instagram anymore. And that's sad to say, but I just really feel like it's shifting. And I want to hear from real authentic people, who are sharing their everyday lives and things that they're doing and their dogs at the vet or their kids are in school, versus like this fairy tale lifestyle.
No, yeah, it's been very commercialized, and you can tell it's the brands. Once the brands start to catch on and figure out how to use the system, then it becomes very saturated. It's just straight brand work, and that's what you can
100%.
tell. And that's kind of how Instagram used to be. You know what I mean? Like it used to not to be like that. It used to be like TikTok, where it's all natural
Right.
and it's just random people. And once the brands get hooked on it and they figure out how to work it, then it starts flowing. And I think that's the cycle of like the media cycles. You know what I mean? Now there's a new app, and then once brands
100%.
start figuring that out, then there's gonna be something new that's like the new thing.
Yeah. And it's just interesting. Like I just have never found myself wanting to, compete for a brand or things like that. Like I've said from the beginning, like it all just has to come natural to me. Like if they want to work with me, they will, and I won't have to show how many followers and what this looks like, or you know what I mean? Like it always has to come natural for me. And like you can really tell that and differentiate that between brands, who really has like, you know, a good push.
What do you do when chatting to brands to kind of figure that out, or how do you help differentiate that?
Yeah, I feel like it's just a lot more personable. Like through the emails, things are usually personable. Um, I don't know how to explain, but there's usually just a structure or like a demeanor within the emails that are like very, um, they want to connect and they want to have their hands in on the project, and they want to know, you know, what you do or who you are versus, okay, we need you to post 3 times a week for this much, and you know, things like that. But when it's like more of a conversation or things like that, that's when I feel like I truly connect with brands. And I've had some really good relationships with some brands over the years, like Midori Bikinis, YK Water. They're a great local brand as well. Just thousands of different brands that are, you know, having good communication, I guess.
Sweet. Well, I think we covered a lot, and I thought it was really valuable. You're
Yeah,
really professional and really great at talking. If you want, you
thank
can
you.
like shout out yourself, shout out any pages or your company, and to kind of close it off.
Yeah. Okay, well, my Instagram is Navy Mckee, just NavyMckee. And then my Instagram is, or my company Instagram is Kai Pono Solutions, KAIPONO Solutions. And we have a website as well if you want to check it out. I think it's going to be a world changer. So if you want to get in on the fun, follow our Instagram, engage, and things like that. So thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So that's it, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.